Hello, everybody. Welcome to another live stream on the Professional Genealogist Reacts channel. going to be doing another Reddit answering questions today, starting a little bit later than we usually do. I know I usually start around 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock Eastern time. Oh, messing up my hair. Uh, so I know a little bit later, but kind of wanted to give myself a bit more time and also testing out different times, seeing if different ones work better. So, welcome everybody. Gonna go through some hellos as usual to start out. We have Tasha coming in from Minnesota. Hello, Tasha. Joe Kenna coming in. Perfect timing. Just about to hop on Ancestry. Maven coming in here after a job interview. And yeah, it's been pretty cold around here. Evan, hello, cousin, coming in from Pittsburgh. We have Alexandra here, as usual, coming in from Germany. And let's see, we have Carol is here. Our wonderful mod, Matt Bishop, is here. We have John Tyner coming in from Ireland. Welcome, John. Let's see, we have Mom Pafelski coming in from Idaho from Meridian. And let's see, I do see some questions already coming in. We're going to go through hellos first. Hello from Jacqueline Baker in Washington State, 28 degrees Fahrenheit, snow and freezing rain almost here. It's pretty cold here, but not too terrible. It's been cold rain, I think 40s or so. So here in North Carolina. Karma's here. Forgot about Friday, but was listening today. Hi from freezing Nebraska. Yeah, I think it's pretty cold all across most of the U.S. We got Charlie, one of our other wonderful mods here. We have Sean coming in from Ireland. And let's see, we have Eve coming in from Ontario. And yeah, we have Noel coming in from the desert. So just a couple of quick starters before we get started. Weird way to put it. As usual, what we'll be doing is going through the Reddit and answering questions. And I'll be looking through chat and trying to answer questions through chat. But as I always say, I cannot guarantee that I will be answering questions from chat. The only questions that I guarantee that I'll answer during this are anyone that does any of the super chats or super stickers through the YouTube channel. Now, I am streaming through Twitch and Facebook, so if you are on Twitch or Facebook or YouTube or you have accounts elsewhere, follow me on the other ones. It'll definitely help me out. I definitely appreciate it. Be sure to like everything and, you know, all of that fun stuff. So I kind of started already. Gosh, I always need to get this stuff adjusted. But I kind of took a look already just real quickly through stuff and wanted to check that. Let's see. Yeah, that should be good. I'll just make myself bigger then. But I just wanted to check, what questions to possibly start with and things that were interesting. And I decided to look at the top of all time. I know I've kind of been doing the top of the past year, or I think I did it the past week or the past month for one of them. Whoa. Not me to do that. But basically did top of all time and then went through and looked at some. And now I need to find the one that I had found. Here we go. So this one I'd kind of already taken a look at, and then I saw that this person actually had posted a second time follow-up to this, and I had actually reviewed that at some point. I don't know when, but I thought it'd be great stuff to go through anyway. So starting right off, any tips for Mexican family trees, and does WANA, Western Asian, North African, and trace ancestry make sense? And then they had posted down here this further information. So young lad Chad, I got my results a while ago. Let's see, can we make that bigger for everyone? All right, not the greatest, but hopefully that's legible enough. All right, I got my results a while ago, but I recently found your channel on YouTube, and I appreciate the great content you posted. It got me interested in genealogy and eventually led me to want to research and build out my family tree. But unfortunately, both my parents don't have much interest in their family history, so I'm starting from scratch. I got a few names down, but I'm stuck on how to get more information since I live in the U.S. and my parents' families are from Mexico. I was wondering if you had any tips for me. I appreciate any help. Thanks. Also, should I even bother with the small percentage of Western Asian, North African, and trace ancestry or chalk it off as just noise. Both of my parents say we are only indigenous, so I'm at a loss right now. So looking at the results, we have 98.4% East Asian Indigenous American, and Indigenous American is 97.4%. And then we have a whole bunch of small percentages ranging the gamut. And the answer is that there's a few possibilities here. It could go either way. This could all be just a bunch of noise, and honestly, it seems more likely that it's all a bunch of noise because every single one of these other readings is well under 1%. In fact, the only thing above half a percentage point is this Northern West Asian. So that in itself just brings that confidence down a lot. Even more, the confidence comes down a lot with the with the Asian populations having such a close tie to Indigenous American, which we can see right off the bat with East Asian and Indigenous American literally being lumped together. And we can even see broadly East Asian and Indigenous American. So they can't even tell. But the truth is that from my experience, people that do have high amounts of Indigenous American also get these Western Asian and North African readings. So it could very possible. It could very well be that you have some ancestor or multiple ancestors in your ancestry who come from Western Asian or North African ancestry. The trace results down here are definitely broadly Central and South Asian is kind of along the same lines of everything. And Angolan and Congolese, I mean, you are looking at more, African, but Italian, and it's all very, very small. But I think we'll talk more about all of this in a second because I know with their update post, it gives a lot of interesting stuff to talk about. So they give us the chromosome browser from 23andMe, and we can see all of their chromosomes, and we can see the majority of it is this Indigenous American. And then we can see where the other parts are popping in. But one of the things that I thought was interesting, and I have noticed this before, is that when you see a lot of the bigger segments, if you notice, there actually will be big segments that are kind of together of different things. So like this segment right here seems to be of the Northern Asian or Chinese Southeast Asian right there. And then it gets into broadly East Asian and Indigenous American. So it's basically a Asian reading with a broadly East Asian and Indigenous American part connected to it. So to me, that makes me wonder, is there something going on in that whole area of that segment of the chromosome that, maybe there's a couple of misreads in that section that are causing it to have these weird readings, or maybe it's issues with phasing, which a little bit of a foreshadowing of what we're going to be talking about further in a second. And then same thing right here, except this one's a bit different because here we've got the broadly Central and South Asian, and that's connected directly to this broadly East Asian and Indigenous American. So once again, that's kind of telling me like, okay, well, both of these small segments are coming together. Granted, both of them are broadly, but broadly Central and South Asian is very, very different than something completely outside, or than something inside that East Asian and Indigenous American category, that population group. So those being lumped together. And then with this one, it's hard to tell exactly. And let's see, I'm going to try to make it as large as possible. So, it's getting so large I can't. Oh, wait. Let's see if we can do it this way. We're just going to look at the image. Here we go. Oh, no. Once again, I have been foiled. Okay, maybe this is large enough at least, but you can see on this one that this big, big chunk, which is the Angolan and Congolese, there's something right there, which seems to be kind of like a greenish color to me, which means that it'd either be broadly Central and South Asian or broadly Central Asian, Northern Indian and Pakistani. But it's hard to tell completely just because it's, it's kind of more gray, but it seems like there might be green. I don't know. But it's definitely flanked by something. And then same thing here where there's something on the end. So it's like these segments, and here we can see it as well, where it's two different colors coming together again. So it's just, to me, that just makes me really question those segments more so than I already am, if that makes sense. Let me take a quick look over chat just to see. Some people are talking about things that I will be talking about in a second, and I actually already have pulled up and ready to go. So we'll talk about that in a second. But then here we have, this is, I believe, the reading that, okay, so basically with 23andMe, you can change the confidence. And so what I think they did here is they changed the confidence so that it's much higher. Let me see if they say it, because I don't. Okay, yeah, it doesn't say, but that's what it looks like. So here we can see, you see there's all these other readings of all sorts of stuff, and there are some broadleys, but then there are some, Chinese and South Asian, Northern Asian, then this Northern West Asian and all that. But then we look here, and I'm quite certain that this is them basically changing that confidence to a much higher confidence. And as they bring that higher confidence up, a lot of stuff gets filtered out. So we see the Angolan and Congolese and Italian, that sticks around. 0.3 and 0.3, and then 0.3 and 0.2, so it gets less. But then we have 5.7% unassigned here. And when we look down here, there's 1% trace ancestry that this is all adding up to, but there's no undefined. But here we have a lot, 5.7%. But then here we can see everything else has either become part of the indigenous American, which has gone up or gone down. Actually, yeah, sorry. So it's gone down. So now they're even saying, okay, well, out of all of this indigenous American we're reading, we're really more confident only about 85.9%. And then 7.9% of everything else is now lumped into these big categories. And then when we look at the chromosomes again, so like let's look at our questionable chromosomes, like this one 14, where it's got that little thing right at the end that's kind of hard to read. Well, now when we look at it again, sure, we still have the Angolan Congolese, but now it's flanked by really big broadly East Asian indigenous American readings, and we can even see lines in between that, possibly breaking it up, more than likely being unassigned. So even though it's still kind of keeping that Angolan and Congolese in there, there's a big question mark. Okay, let's So now the OP posted down here, update on my results after phasing with my mother. And before I forget, I just want to do reviewed. And then actually I do want to also, I really hope I didn't get booted from Reddit for this, because I've heard from other YouTubers that when they've posted links to their channels too often, that they end up getting banned. Like I think Mr. Beat had said that was an issue with a lot of his profiles, that he would get banned. So hopefully this doesn't happen, but if it does, I know we'll have to figure out something else. But this question was answered on this live stream. Comments. Okay. Cool. All right. So going to the updated post. So update, first few picks are my unphased and phased results. Last picks are my mom's results. Should I at this point consider any other ethnicity under 1% to be valid and not just be noise? Parents say our family is just indigenous, so I'm sure they'll say the results are off. Although everyone will say that, especially even if these small percentages are true, and especially when the small percentages are true, those are the ones that the family is less likely to know about, because small percentage means that it's coming from really distant. And, if a 1% reading is true, let's throw up our favorite banner showing the DNA breakdown, but we can see below now. So even if 1% is true, we're looking at a 4th great grandparent, 5th great grandparent, or possibly even further, because it's possible sometimes for people to get it where they're getting big segments coming from distant ancestors, and it's just because of the randomness of recombination that it's getting, it's gone through each generation with little recombination getting to you. Those segments are nicknamed sticky segments, which I think I've mentioned in other streams, but a lot of genealogists don't really like that term sticky segments because it makes it seem like it's something going on with the segment that's making it not recombine, when it's really just randomly just happened to be that segment just was unrecombined until you get to you. But if you look at other relatives throughout that line of the family, you're probably going to see a lot of them having that segment recombine in different ways. So yeah, so looking at the results, these are the results that we were looking at before. Same thing. Then this is, same exact thing. And then here, same thing, the change. And now here we have the phased results, I believe, and also updated results. Now, for anyone who's asking, well, what does phased result mean and what are unphased results? Well, what phased results mean is that you basically take your DNA and you have a parent compared to you so that they know exactly every piece of DNA that you're inheriting from that parent, and then they can make the assumption that every other piece of DNA obviously is coming from the other parent. So when you get these DNA tests done, there's going to be they're reading they're reading hundreds of thousands of SNPs, single nucleotide polymorphisms. But really what it means is that they're reading hundreds of thousands of parts of your DNA, little spots on your DNA. And at each spot of your DNA, there are two base pairs, or not two base, there's a base pair. There's a base pair. And so that means that there are two alleles, two loci. So, or not two loci. I'm sorry. I'm trying to make this understandable, and then I'm kind of making it confusing myself. But so basically at each spot there are just two letters. So everyone knows those as ACTG. Those are the base pairs. And so they look at each spot, and at each spot there are two letters. There's an A, a T, a C, or a G, but they don't know which of those two letters are from which parent. So, one spot you might have AA, another spot you might have AT. I think it's, AT pairs up and CG pairs up. You know what? Let me see if I can find something to aid me in explaining this so I'm not sounding like I'm so I'm not confusing everybody. You know what? We're going to use my own, the thing that I put in a lot of my videos whenever I talk about phased results. I just actually have to find it. Okay. This is kind of a funny way to show it, but hey, that works. Okay, so here we have the pair. So, here's you, and here's just a section of reading from your DNA. You have AA, CG, TA, AA, TA, TT, CG, or GC, AT, CG. And so you don't know which one of these pairs is coming from mom and dad, but one is coming at each spot. One is coming from mom and one is coming from dad. So here, one of these, the C is coming from either mom or dad, and the G is coming from either mom or dad, but you don't know which is coming from which. So then let's say, so let's say that as the program goes through it, it's trying to decipher which is which. So they can't tell exactly, but they can get an idea because they can compare your DNA to tons and tons of other DNA. And then when they see a sequence that makes sense, they go, oh, okay, so that makes sense because it matches up with a lot of other stuff. Now we can say that's a segment. And so here we see, here's a segment that it's deciphered, but in reality, this is a misread. So the DNA has gone through and it said, okay, this is the segment, ACT, AATTCAG. So we can see that, A here, C here, T here, but then A on this side, A, T over here, T, C on this side. So you can see that, it's kind of just trying to figure it out. But then when you phase your results, then you're basically able to give them your parents' results, and then they can figure out, oh, actually, you got this from your parent, that parent, so the other one has to come from your parent. So then it goes through it, and once it goes through it, then it can figure out, oh, this is the actual segment that we need to read, because this is just a misread that's a combination of the mom and dad. So the proper reading, we can see here, this base, this base, this base, this base, and this base were actually mix-ups. And because of those mix-ups, it misread it. So that's what phasing your DNA does, is it basically allows the program to properly align everything, and it's doing a lot less guesswork. So when it's unphased, you have a higher rate of misreads, is a way to say it. I don't know if there's an actual percentage to put to it, but that's one of the things that you can have come about, and that can be exacerbated too, in the sense that these tests already have a 1% margin of error in terms of just reading the base pairs. So just in deciphering at each spot, what's the base pair reading, there's that 1% misread. And then when it goes through trying to decipher the segments, then you have those possibilities of misreads again being higher when it's unphased. So that's one of the reasons why, when it comes to coming up with these admixtures, it can be very difficult, because even before they really get to trying to align, like, okay, well, now we've read this segment, but what population group do we say this segment truly comes from? Before they can really even do that, they have all these other issues. And yeah, so that's a lot of the stuff going on with it. And so here we're looking at someone who now they've done a phased result. So let's pull up the unphased. So here we've got the unphased, and now we have the phased result. And notice how the Chinese and Southeast Asian, that 0.1% goes out. The Northern Asian drops down to 0.2%. The Indigenous American has gone up just a little bit. Basically, I think it's absorbed some of these other percentage points, although some of them have definitely been absorbed elsewhere. And then interestingly enough, we get this 0.9% European coming up, which is especially interesting because coming from Mexican ancestry, that kind of aligns in the sense of knowing the history of Mexico. And 0.9%, I mean, we are talking about, like we said before, looking at the bottom of the screen with the ticker, fourth great grandparents 1.5625%, and fifth great grandparents 0.78125%. Well, to give you an idea, if this person is my age and their generation distances are about the same as mine, my fourth great grandparents, for the most part, were born around the mid-late 1700s to like real early 1800s. And then my fifth great grandparents were born to like the early mid 1700s to the, kind of later 1700s. So you're looking at, if this Southern European is true, coming from Spanish and Portuguese, mostly, there's obviously a 0.3% of that, they say 0.9% European. So 0.3% of that is broadly European, and they're just not saying it. But there is a very strong possibility of that. And even more, it could be that there's multiple ancestors on both parents' sides of European ancestry that's even further back, like 1500s, 1600s. And that makes sense with the history. So the thing I can say is, yeah, it makes 100% sense that your parents would think that you have almost completely indigenous ancestry, because that basically is what you have, but you very possibly have others. And that could also be why you have all of these other small percentages coming in, is because it may be representative of some possibility outside of your indigenous ancestry. But it's kind of hard to tell. And it is very interesting having this Angolan Congolese, but at that 0.4%. And let's see if, they gave this again. Oh, wait, no, this is the same one we were looking at before. 2 of 9. So here we go. So here's the DNA painting. And so it's down here. It's that same segment. And it actually looks, it's easier to see that little green spot right there. It is for me, at least. Let me try to make it as easily seen by you all. But so you can see again, you have these readings flanked by these broadly Central and South Asian. That's what that green represents. So that's here, 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 here. There's three colors. If I don't know if you all can see that, and then here, here, here. So there's still a big question mark with a lot of it, but it's certainly, once it's phased, you certainly have a higher confidence, but it doesn't make the confidence 100%. So, that's the unphased reading. So with the phased reading, that European kind of propping up, that would be the big question mark. And actually going back to this, the Spanish Portuguese is that kind of darker, and British Irish. So that's the British Irish reading, and that's the Spanish Portuguese reading on the 16th chromosome. So the interesting thing to do too is that look at your matches, and if you can find other matches that have no Indigenous American or very low amounts of Indigenous American, see if you can find any connection between those segments. Granted, this is 23andMe, I think, so you don't have access to a lot of this stuff right now. They took away the access. So that's all very interesting with this. So continuing on. Oh, this is just the further down part. And then the mom's results. So in the mom's results, she's getting that Southern European. And let's see, is it coming in on the same chromosome that his is, that 16th? No, it's not. So that's telling us that either that Spanish Portuguese that he's getting on the 16th chromosome is coming from the paternal side, or it's just a misread of some sort, which is possible even at, I say even at that amount, but it's only 0.6%. So, there's a lot of question marks with those small percentages. And to answer their question of, should I consider any other ethnicity under 1% to be valid or just noise? Based on especially seeing the mom's results is pretty similar, just slightly read differently. I really doubt it. It seems unlikely. Get your dad to test. That could help tell, because if that is true, especially if your dad ends up getting similar Spanish Portuguese or something, it could just be what's going on with the DNA. And there is the possibility that it is true with the Spanish and Portuguese, but my guess is it'd be so far back that it might be very difficult to get into. Now, I have been talking so much about the DNA. Let's talk about the genealogy, because the first question that there is Mexican family trees. Well, something that a lot of people have already alluded to is going through family search. And starting out, go to the wiki of family search, which I've pulled up here. This is the Mexico genealogy wiki. And before I jump into it, let me just double check chat, because I see y'all have been some chatty chats. Let's see. Oh, Highlander jumped in for a second, but couldn't stay. Okay, let's see. Come through. This question real quick. Hi, I remember you saying some test was better for Eastern Europeans. Was it MyHeritage? Yes, but just in the sense that it's better because there are a lot of Eastern European matches on MyHeritage. And by that, I mean people that are in Eastern Europe, not just, Americans with Eastern European ancestry. There's also a lot of South Americans on MyHeritage as well. Let's see. Okay, let's see. Will 23andMe and Ancestry actually recalculate matching segments with the pool or matches if a parent tests? This would be separate from side view on Ancestry. For example, would an 18 centimorgan segment be looked at again, and then a new result would be a 25 centimorgan segment because of the reread? So, Evan, I think you're asking about basically, are they phasing stuff when a parent tests? With 23andMe, I think that you have to actually add it. So like I think that, my dog is freaking out about something in the back. If you hear my dog, put dogs in the chat. But they do have a way of phasing. And I think once you do, you have to connect it in 23andMe. Let's see. Oh. All right, did that work? Okay, so with DNA phasing, Jack. Okay, so once they test, make sure that you are connected to a biological parent via sharing or are located in the same account, and that everyone has received their initial results. The sample for your parent is still processing in the lab. Parental inheritance won't be available until after his or her sample is finished processing. And then once you connect that, it takes 3 to 5 business days. For Ancestry, I'm not sure, but that's a good question. I think for Ancestry, they do it automatically if they detect it, but I'm not 100% sure. I'll have to look into that. So I think that was the question. So, okay, let me just go through stuff. Okay, let's just jump into this. So with the wiki, this has a lot of great stuff. First off, there's the wiki topics on the right, which can be very helpful to go into. So you have a lot of different stuff that are just helpful guides. And these are written by all sorts of people. I don't know exactly who does the wiki. Each page probably is a different person. And you can go and look at, who are the people that are doing it and, see what their experience is. And, but I've found that the wikis are amazing. But you get all this stuff. You get the record types that you can look into. So, let's say that you knew that maybe you had an ancestor that was in the Mexican military. So you can look through this information. It tells you all about, where can you look? Because I know a lot of people look online, and a lot of what I show is online stuff, even when I do the, family tree live streams of building family trees. But the thing is that, when you're doing the more in-depth research, it is a lot of ordering and, contacting people to get records, because a lot of stuff isn't digitized. And that's especially where it's useful to hire genealogists that are in specific locations with those expertises, because not only can they pull the documents for you, but they can also use their expertise to help guide you in what's the best next step. Or they may even say, oh, well, instead of looking there, let's actually look here first. So I've hired multiple genealogists around the world. I've hired a genealogist in Livorno, Italy, hired a genealogist for Tulchin, Ukraine, which is in the Vinnytsia Oblast. I'm trying to think if I don't know if I ever really hired anyone in the Netherlands. I've hired some American genealogists too, but sometimes you just need to find people with that specialty. But sometimes you can just find the information here of who to contact and who to, sometimes it's just a matter of going to the website and putting in, there's just a form that you put in and you pay a fee, and so it can vary. But one of the best things is that you have all of these extra breakdowns of stuff. And in my experience with Mexican genealogy, it really comes down to the jurisdiction. I've had I've had experience researching in Nuevo León and Jalisco. And my experience has been pretty decent. A lot of it is available on Family Search A lot of it is available on Ancestry as well. Some of it is not fully indexed and searchable. So basically, you can go in and look and see what books are available, but you're going to have to click through it one by one. But, depending on where you're researching, it can vary. And I've heard that there are some jurisdictions in Mexico that have very little records available. You can then see that there's further, links and all of that down here. But one thing to also look for is the blue button, Mexico Online Genealogy Records. Most pages will have an online genealogy record button, especially if it's a location. And then it takes you to something like this where you can see a breakdown of stuff. So, okay, here we have birth records, and we have this record set 1545 to 1975 or 77, not 70. And that's Mexico, Puebla, Catholic Church records at Family Search. And so if we click this, it's going to take us to the search function for it. But we can also browse all 6 million images. And I'll have to sign in to do that. Sign in real quick. So then it comes up like this. So here we're looking at all of Mexico. So if you have a specific town or something, then you might be able to find it this way. And one thing that I have found is that not everything will be indexed in here, and not everything will always be indexed properly. So sometimes looking through this can be helpful, especially if you're not finding what you expect to find. So let's just look at something random. So here we have baptism, census. Let's look at this 1907 census. And so we just click through that. And where is the button? There we go. So you can look at all of the records here. Let's just jump to a page. So here we've got what this census looks like, 1907. We've got whatever information is here. But there, that's the thing, is there can be a lot of stuff that you might not be able to find just by searching. But going through, you'll also see that, okay, here we have more family search stuff, but then they also show here you can actually access this same information through Ancestry, MyHeritage, and Find My Past. And you'll notice this little money symbol beside it requires a paid subscription for full access. So it gives you information of where things are available. And, that can be helpful, if we're researching on Ancestry and building the tree on Ancestry. Oh, great. Well, let's go to Ancestry. We can find it there and then instantly connect it to our tree. That's easy. Or maybe you prefer MyHeritage and you want to do it on MyHeritage, or maybe you've got something going on Find My Past and you want to connect it to stuff there. But then we also have here, we've got other stuff. So we have British Armed Forces and Overseas Births and Baptisms, and this is at Find My Past. And then Ancestry has Mexican birth records, no dates indicated. But then same thing for all these other stuff. There's just all sorts of information that's listed, and it's broken down, and depending on the areas and locations, sometimes you can have a lot of stuff, sometimes not so much. This actually it's not super bare, but this is a little bit smaller than a lot of other online genealogy records I've seen. But, let's say the family comes from Nuevo Leon. Do they say where they're from? Okay, let's see the update post. Do they say where they're from? Well, we did see there was a community. What was the community they got? Jalisco. All right, so let's look Jalisco, because I bet you anything they probably have Ancestry from Jalisco, which the reason why I have experience researching in Jalisco is I have been researching in Jalisco in preparation for an upcoming YouTuber Family Trees episode, which I should mention here, if you haven't seen the episode just released 2 days ago on Sunday, I just released an episode tracing the family ancestry, one of the lines of Drew Darnell. that video has unfortunately been doing a lot fewer views than I hoped it would. So yeah, if you haven't watched it yet, go watch it because I'd really appreciate it. But I've been researching for a lot of other YouTubers who will be on the series, and one of those YouTubers is Cynthia Reyes, who does science videos, and she is from Mexico. And so I've been researching her family tree, which comes from Jalisco. And so I don't want to say much else, but just something to look forward to. But here we can see Jalisco. We get, information about the history in the area. We have even further breakdown of regions. We have information about jurisdictions. Here we've got information about civil registration, online digital registers, microfilm available. So here we're getting a whole lot more information than we did just from the Mexico part of the wiki. And then once again, we have the Mexico online genealogy records, but this is just going to be Mexico. It's not going to be specific to Jalisco. Sometimes you might find regions that have their own genealogy records, but here we have all of this further information. So, if you have family coming from, let's say Altos Norte, then here we have a bit more information. We can, it's the further you go, the more you might be able to find. And sometimes you'll find stuff that, oh, wow, this is exactly what I need for my family. And this one's an interesting one because here it's a family search catalog. So we have to go through images. So the way this works is we've got all of this giving our information. These are coming from microfilm. And here we have all of that microfilm. We can see where it's located, Granite Mountain Record Vault. And so let's say we want here if it has that search function on the side, you can get the actual search. But with the camera, you can look at it. So this is the stuff that you can. This is where you get in-depth genealogy. Because with this stuff, you can go page by page by page, but this is where you start to learn tricks of the trade of being able to get past, that difficulty. So, here we know, okay, what is the information on this record set? Let's go back. So this record set, matrimonial information, 1906 to 1923. We know the year of whatever we're looking for. So if, this person's looking for information on a marriage in their family between 1906 and 1923, well, what we can do is, a little trick is pull this up. We have all of this pulled up, and basically we see 665. So just thinking, okay, if there's about an even number of weddings a year, which there aren't, but just assuming that can help us, like, okay, let's say it's 1920 they're looking for. Well, this goes to 1923, so it's definitely going to be towards the end. So I'll go to number 555, and here we can see, and this is very common, these will be broken up. So here we've got this third one, and does it give us information? Sometimes it'll give you information on the years or things like that. It looks like it's not giving us the information on the years, but more of like they broke it all down by numbers. But what you can do is basically see if you can find one that gives you that year information. But you also have to realize, is it actually in order? Is it not? So here we have 1920 and 7th of May. Okay, well, if we're on that, let's say we're looking for something June 9th. Okay, 24th of May here. 28th of May. So it is sequential. So we're looking for June 9th. So let's go ahead and just jump ahead. 569. So 7th of August, we jumped too far. 565. July 10th. So, but you can kind of see what I'm saying in terms of, you can get to that spot of, it's a lot to go through, but if you think about it, in the right way, you can really save yourself a lot of time to find stuff. So, okay. So hopefully that was a really helpful sort of thing to go through a lot of information, both DNA side and not just Mexican genealogy, but I think just general usefulness of the wiki on family search. So, Yeah. Wow. One question. I mean, I guess more than one question, but yeah, 45 minutes. So, all right, let's check chat. Let's see what's going on. Okay. Let's see. Do you have any advice for people that have big gaps between generation, 40 years, 30 years for between generations, 75 years between me and my grandfather, in between me and my great grandfather? I guess you're saying kind of in terms of no, here, let's do that. That should help. I'm guessing that you're saying that in terms of like the generations between like you and your parents and then your grandparents. So like 30 or 40 years between those. And I'm not quite sure if there's any advice I have geared towards people with bigger generations between a family in any sort of way. I mean, I guess it might make a difference in terms of DNA just because when you're looking at people your age, you may be looking at people that or relatives at your age. If you have big generation gaps between your line, but their line from that same shared family is much shorter, you might have cousins like I do, that I have second cousins who are my parents' age. Like literally one of my second cousins was born the same year as my dad. So, that could be it. But I don't know if you're asking something more specific. Let's see. Do you see whole genome sequencing becoming more important for genealogy in the future, including for deep autosomal matching? I think it will be important. I think it's possible that we may see some of these, some of the general direct-to-consumer ancestry tests going a whole genome sequence route of adding that to their repertoire. So family tree DNA, I think, would probably be the first if any of them do it, especially just because with their gene by gene lab, they already kind of have a lot of stuff online. I think they do whole genome sequencing, but it's only limited to private clients, not consumer clients. So yeah, I think a lot of people will possibly go that route. I don't necessarily see it being that much more useful for the genealogy side of things, just because, the 600,000 to 700,000 SNPs that they're testing in these tests were chosen because these are the variable SNPs. These are the ones where we see variation between humans so we can actually tell it. Where, in reality, we always say, oh yeah, I share 50% of my DNA with my parents and blah, blah, blah. But what we're really saying is 50% of the DNA that is the variable DNA. Where in reality, I think people hear this all the time, humans are, I think it's supposed to be about 99% the same DNA wise. And maybe it's changed or something, but that's why they're testing these DNA markers. So when you do whole genome, they're testing everything, but you're not going to get a whole lot more information. And it could be helpful, if everyone does whole genome sequencing and they do autosomal SNP comparisons in databases for genetic genealogy like they do now. Just because, the more that you test of the variable SNPs, the better. And, I say it all the time, not all the tests test all of the same SNPs. So like if you've tested at multiple companies, you can upload your DNA to GEDmatch and create what's known as a super kit, which is multiple of the tests all put together, because each test will have SNPs they're testing that none of the other ones are testing. And so then it adds all those together, and then you end up having, I don't know what it is, but maybe it's like 750,000 SNPs, or who knows? I don't know exactly. The funny thing is I actually see for the future of genealogy, it's going to start going the other way, where we're going to start seeing tests have fewer and fewer SNPs. And that's going to be for a variety of reasons. The biggest reason is going to be because of artifact testing, and also hair testing, even more specifically, rootless hair testing or hair shaft testing, which is starting to become much more common. So in the past, it was, if you had hair and you wanted DNA from it, well, you needed the root of the hair to possibly get it. Now they can do that without the root. But even more with artifact testing, that's, what it sounds like. If you have something that you want to have DNA tested of an ancestor that passed away and that they touched it or did something, or, something where you're pretty confident there's going to be a good amount of DNA there, then you can try to get that tested. The number one thing that people do that with are envelopes, either the stamps or the, seal of it. Usually it's the stamps though, because the seal, once it's unsealed, it kind of loses its whatever. But, I think sometimes they can find something. But basically the idea is that the ancestor licked the stamp, put it on the envelope. It's been there ever since. And if they can break that down and extract the DNA, then they can actually get a profile. So, if you have a letter that your third great grandparent wrote and you think that they licked the stamp that's on it, and you get that DNA tested, you might be able to get a DNA profile for your third great grandparent. But the issue with that is that DNA is going to be highly degraded, and you're also going to be looking at low amounts of DNA. I mean, think about, for everyone that's done these DNA tests, if it's the swab, they have you send in 2 swabs and you're swabbing your cheek for a long time. If it's the spit, you fill up a lot of spit. They want a lot of DNA because with only a little bit of DNA, there is a high rate of error, and there's a very high possibility that they can't find anything. And what's happened is they've found that by doing lower SNP testing, they can get viable profiles using this degraded DNA. And this is the work that I was doing in investigative genetic genealogy, working on the Genealogist kit, which Genealogist tests Genealogist tests 10,230 autosomal SNPs. Direct-to-consumer tests like Ancestry and 23andMe test about 700,000 SNPs. But the thing with Genealogist was we were able to start developing profiles with smaller amounts of DNA and more degraded amounts of DNA. And these were profiles that had been tried to be created with regular autosomal SNP array testing, doing the hundreds of thousands of SNPs. It was also tried with whole genome sequencing. But then for multiple cases, we were able to take profiles that couldn't be created with other technology and then create a viable genealogy profile with that. And this is something that is going to be, it's not going to be hitting the consumer market just yet. I think that I can't say too much because I don't know, what kind of limitations I necessarily have with stuff. But, I do know that the company that's developing it, Verigen/Kyogen/ the company that owns GEDmatch, they've been, they're the ones that developed it, and they're working with different labs in different capacities. One of those labs was the lab that I worked at, DNA Labs International. And so, that was one of the things was I ended up being the person that has the most solved cases and the most experience using these Genealogist DNA results. So there, this is where I see the future of DNA going, is the tests are going to get smaller. So for one, the Genealogist test, the SNPs that they choose are, I think what they used to call it, the non-coding DNA. I think they used a different term for it, but I think it was non-coding is technically what it is. But basically what it is they were focusing on finding SNPs that weren't medically relevant, because that was one of the big questions with having investigative genealogy and, law enforcement access to DNA and things is, a lot of people are worried about the insurance implications and, what happens with that. And so with the Genealogist testing, that was a way of, okay, well, we can focus the testing with smaller results. And by focusing on non-coding DNA that doesn't correlate to, medical stuff, then that will allow us to, kind of rule that out as an issue, I guess you could say. So really, really long-winded answer to your question, but it just got me thinking, that's a really interesting thing to talk about. So I think eventually that will hit the market. And we do already see artifact testing available. So there's keepsake DNA and to the letter DNA that do artifact testing. And you can go to their websites and they talk about other items that, you might be able to find stuff on. But the thing with that is that there's a risk to it in the sense that, whatever item you send in, you're not getting back. So, if you have a cherished envelope from your third great grandparent, it's the only one you have. If it's going to be DNA tested, what they're going to do is you're going to send it in. They're going to basically emulsify it and then extract the DNA from that. Like, I don't know the exact process, but that's basically what they do is they emulsify it into like a powder or something so they can extract the DNA. And, because I think a lot of people, have this idea of like they carefully take some tweezers and a scalpel and slowly slice away the stamp from the envelope and all that. But no, really, they're just, they're cutting out the piece and emulsifying it. So whatever you send in is going to be destroyed. But also, I think there's a high rate of no results. Blaine Bettinger, I think, has tried a few times with these companies, and I think he said that he hasn't had any successful results. But it's been a while since I don't. Last time I talked to him, I actually I hung out with him and talked to him in person in London at the IJGS conference. I don't think I asked him about that, but yeah. So let's continue. Okay. One of our newest mods, Yakin, is on here. Known by very different names on our Discord, which, by the way, if you're not on the Discord, definitely check that out. And I'll tell our mods to throw the link in chat if you can, and I'll share that on the screen. But yeah, hers are from Guadalajara. Let's see. Okay, Yakin. And another one of our Discord people. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. My cousin Evan had to go. Wow. I either was talking for a long time or you all had a lot of stuff to chat about. How many people are watching? Yeah, we have a pretty good amount. Only 1 on Twitch, 3 on Facebook, and 54 on YouTube. So not too bad. All right, here we go. Oh yeah, I need to make Matt a mod. I tried to make you a mod before we started, but I wasn't able to. I wasn't able to because I couldn't find your thing. You now have the power. You have the power. Okay. So let's get back to questions. So let's see. We just answered the tips for Mexican results. Yeah. So, okay, let's see. What's this? I recognize this username. Okay, Flamingo. Should I test with FTDNA from scratch or use raw data? I uploaded my MyHeritage, 23andMe, and Ancestry raw data to Family Tree DNA. I'm thinking to pay some extra bucks to reveal my ethnicity estimate. Do you think I should make a swap test from scratch or just use one of the uploaded raw data? Does it really matter? And dogs and donuts, please. I kind of agree. It doesn't really matter. I'm kind of trying to see if anyone's going to say a specific thing. Here we have Matt, who we're just talking about. Either way, the results will be compared against their database for ethnicity and matches. If you were to upload and test with FTDNA, you may find there are slightly different ethnicity results. This is exactly what I was hoping to find. And a few matches the other profile doesn't share. This is simply because of the parts and number of DNA tested. So like we were just talking about before with the autosomal SNPs, that there's hundreds of thousands tested, but each site tests kind of slightly different amounts. So like, if you looked at family tree DNA versus Ancestry, there might be 600 to 650,000 SNPs that they're both testing, but then one's testing, 60,000 SNPs, the other's not testing, and the other one's testing another 70,000 SNPs that the other one's not testing. So altogether, there's 130,000 SNPs that aren't being read, which is why there's the super kits on GEDmatch. I don't think the numbers are that high in the differences necessarily. I'm just kind of using that as just a general, kind of whatever. But that's kind of what happens. And so if you do an upload of your Ancestry to Family Tree DNA, let's say it's 620,000 out of the total 700,000 SNPs that Family Tree DNA is trying to analyze, only 620,000 are, that's what Ancestry actually tested. So then if you actually test through Family Tree DNA, then you're going to get all of those markers that you didn't get tested through Ancestry. So the differences will be slight, as Matt mentions, in both the admixture ethnicity results and your actual genetic matches. But more than likely, if you upload and then test through a company, you'll notice slight differences. And I'm trying to actually do that for an upcoming episode of YouTuber Family Trees with a different YouTuber, someone we've already done an episode on, actually. And speaking of which, just a reminder, if you haven't gone and seen my episode on Drew Durnhill, just released it on Sunday on the main channel, so be sure to go and watch that video. I really need people to watch it. I've been really sad at how low the views are on that one. That one took like a year and a half of research. Okay. So yeah, I think that one's answered. There's really not much to that question. Reviewed. All right, let's get back to chat, see what's going on. We have Elkie here. Made it to the live. Welcome. Let's see, which is better to use, 23andMe or Ancestry DNA? Right now, Ancestry DNA is beating 23andMe by a mile, most especially because 23andMe has kind of turned off a lot of their tools that make them one of the best companies, most specifically their shared matches and chromosome browser stuff. And yeah, so at this point, Ancestry by a mile, especially because both of these sites are sites that you cannot upload to. You can only download your results. So if you test on one or the other, you're only going to be able to be on that test and not into the other. But whichever one of these you choose, you'll be able to upload to Family Tree DNA, MyHeritage, and just like this is saying, MyHeritage, Family Tree DNA, Living DNA allows uploads, Genie.com, GenieNet used to, but they're turning that off if they haven't already. So yeah, so that's what I'd say. Okay, let's go. A lot of people agreeing with the Ancestry thing before I even said it. Yeah, this is a good way to put it. 23andMe is often considered by North Americans as more accurate, and that's really in the admixture results, the percentages. But for us, it's kind of like the amount of care that we have for that versus all the other things we're looking for from this DNA test. The admixture is like, if you're looking at the DNA test like a car, the admixture is like the radio, and then your DNA matches are like the engine. And then, all the tools that come with it are all the, I don't know, the ease of driving it, I guess, and all the, gadgets and gizmos. So, for 23andMe, they may have the fanciest radio, but, they don't really have the best engine. Whereas Ancestry, they have a pretty good radio, but the engine's way better, and they have a lot of tools that make driving a lot easier. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. Okay. Let's see. I've found FTDNA to be a horrible waste of time and money. I tested in 2004, never got a single match, didn't find my paternal lineage until I tested through Ancestry. And I mean, that's kind of more of a representation of whatever your ancestry is. And that's something that I've talked about in a lot of videos, is that when you are comparing which tests are better to take and you're looking at matches, certain tests are going to be better depending on your ancestry. So like the most common one I always say is South American ancestry and Eastern European. You're best off to go on MyHeritage because they really have the most people that have tested with that that I've seen. But with family tree DNA, it's very possible that that's just not as widely used by people in your ancestry group. Although I find it odd that it's not a single match. Granted, you're saying you tested in 2004, which if you tested in 2004, I'm pretty sure that was when they only did Y-DNA testing, which means that you're just talking about the fact that you didn't get Y-DNA matches, which is not the same as the Family Finder test through Family Tree DNA. So that's kind of, I kind of wonder if that's something. Let me see, FTDNA history, because I'm pretty sure. Yeah, autosomal DNA testing wasn't launched until May 2010. So if you tested in 2004 and haven't tested since, that is a really unfair comparison, considering that you're talking about within the 4th year of the company, 6 years before they released their biggest draw, being the autosomal DNA testing. So you're really, it's almost not even comparing apples to oranges. So yeah, I guess that's not surprising you didn't get a single match, especially because, let's see, if you tested at Family Tree DNA in 2004, the best you could have done was a 12 STR marker test, at least according to Wikipedia. So I'm not 100% sure about that, but I can tell you right now, a 12 STR test is so small. And it's like in this day and age, a 12 STR test would be like trying to hook up a Mac computer from 1980s to the internet today and trying to do the exact same stuff we're doing right now. It's just not going to work. I mean, so not surprising at all. You're basically, you're comparing very, very different things. So yeah, I actually kind of, yes. So yeah, I mean, you're just comparing different things. So I mean, not the whole thing about the population group before doesn't really apply to you in this situation. Granted, it is something for people to know. Okay, let's keep going. Let's see what else chat has to say. And I should say again, too, I know I'm trying to kind of read quickly through a lot of stuff. If you have questions that you want me to answer, the only way I guarantee answering them is through super chats and super stickers. I will try to get to questions in chat, but I just can't guarantee it. Like I say, only guaranteed that way. So I know, and I should also mention, too, I don't know if I get a lot of people watching these streams and they're like, I should send them a message. Do not send me messages asking me to help you about stuff. I get probably about a dozen, if not more, messages a day through all of my different platforms of people asking me to help. And I would love to, but that's why I came up with these Reddit answering things. This is my way to help and also help the entire community. I should say that if you do want to hire me, I do currently have 1-to-1 sessions available through my Patreon. So go there and you can see what's available. I am going to see about rolling out possible other ways to hire me privately, but working on that. I'm working on a lot of stuff. It's been difficult kind of really getting the ball rolling for everything. So yeah, so stay patient. Let me see. Okay. Is there any way to determine paternal lineage as a female? My father passed away when I was quite young. The best way is try to find a male relative from your paternal line who should have the same Y-DNA that your father would have had. So, if your father had any brothers and they are still alive, or if your father had any brothers who had sons, or if, your grandfather had any brothers who had sons or grandsons, or, as long as you can find someone in that Y line, you can get them tested. Now, the thing is the further out you go to find someone in that line, the less reliability you have that, that truly was your father's line. You can be more confident about that by doing autosomal testing to confirm you truly are cousins and things like that. But, if you do a Y-DNA test of someone that, shares the same last name as your father had, but, your connection to them is in the, 1600s, there's a big question mark of, did both of your patrilineal lines, did they truly stay true? And, were there any NPEs in there? Let's see. That car analogy is completely lost on me. Yeah, I try to use all sorts of analogies with the admixture stuff, but I guess the whole idea of the car analogy is that when you're looking at a DNA test as a car, the radio is the ethnicity admixture. And the reason I say that is because the radio doesn't really help that much with driving the car or anything. Like, it's nice. It adds stuff to it, but what really gets the car driving is the engine. And to me, the engine for these DNA tests are the genetic matches. That's the thing that truly helps. So I guess the whole analogy is just to say that, there is a use to the admixture. So, but the use is very minimal. So, I guess I came up with the car analogy too when I was talking about comparing DNA tests, because people always compare the DNA test focusing on the admixtures, and that was where it came from. It was like, it's like comparing cars, but only comparing them by their radio. I like this car better because it has a way better radio. To me, is the same way of saying, I like this car, or I like this DNA test way better because it has way better ethnicity admixture, in my opinion. And, for me, it's like, well, actually, this car is way better because the engine is a lot better, whereas that car is not as good because it has a really dinky engine, or something, I don't know. For some, maybe that'll help, and others, not so much. Yeah, that's the way. Yeah, for a car nerd person, the engine is more important than the luxury or design. For genealogy nerds, the family tree tells all, while the percentage results are just a neat showpiece. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Noel asks, can I hire you? Like I said, I don't have a direct way to hire me just yet. I'm thinking about starting to take private clients again, or at least offering one-to-one sessions outside of Patreon. But for now, if you go to my Patreon page, I have different tiers that include a one-to-one session. They also have a lot of other stuff. So if you also enjoy my content, it's a great way to get access to exclusive content and early access stuff while also supporting the channel. And then you also get the one-to-one sessions. Let's see. So basically, you only guarantee help if we pay you. I mean, I do have to make a living, and, I get a lot of questions in these. So, I answer the questions through the Reddit. I don't say that, I don't answer questions if you don't pay. I just say that I can't guarantee that I'll answer them. So, I mean, I think this is the second question or something from you I've answered. So, it's just me saying, I think that's how a lot of people do it on streams anyway. If you want me to guarantee that I'm going to respond to something, you do a super sticker thing. If not, you can put it in chat. I may mention it. I may miss it. So that's just it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Can't do everything for free. Thank you. So. Okay, interesting. I respect your opinion, read the car analogy, but for me, the DNA admixture is the science, and for me, that is the engine. Yeah, but that, to me, that's where my analogy of the DNA admixture is just a blurry picture versus your actual family tree and family ancestry is the actual story in an unblurred picture. So when you look at your admixture percentages, it gives you a general idea, but you don't know the full story. Whereas when you use your family tree and then use your DNA test matches to then expand that family tree and especially uncover things that the paper trail would not be able to connect, which I've done many ways. I mean, I solved cases, little, unknown human remains and violent perpetrators. And, we use the admixtures to kind of help guide us, but that was like one little part of it, and it was the DNA matches that were the true engine to allow us to build the trees and figure the things out. So that's, that's what I would call it. What about the wheels of the car? I mean, I'm not going to get to, I mean, we could dive real deep into this analogy and just, what each piece is, but it's just a general of just, to me, that, the admixture is just, it's a neat thing, but it's not that useful. In my opinion. But we also might be looking at different cars. Someone might be looking at a muscle car, someone else might be looking at a minivan, because they have different purposes for the car. So there you go. Yeah, what's the headlights? What are the DNA matches? What's in the trunk? Not a body. Totally fair. Yeah. Okay. I thought I just answered one. Okay. I mean, it's kind of funny because I started this Reddit thing because people ask me questions all the time. And I used to try to answer them, but what would happen is I would get through one or two and it'd be hours because, I read through the stuff and then I kind of try to analyze it. And you can see how much work goes into this stuff. And so at a point I realized I have to stop answering these. I talked to multiple YouTuber buddies of mine about it, and they all said, you can't, you can't just guarantee yourself to people. I'm not your slave. I'm not going to just dance for you necessarily. And I do want to answer people's questions and help them out. And so that's why I came up with this Reddit thing. And just like I said, I'm going to try to answer questions as I go through the chat, but I really, I can't guarantee it. So yeah, I don't know. Thank you, Maven. So, also the car analogy is a bit stupid solely because the history of your family is not shown in the DNA at all. Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know. I feel like it's just different analogies just to look at it in a different way or different perspective. Yeah. Also, there's so much help on both the Genie Vlogger Reddit and Discord, all for free. Great community of people. Yes, if you aren't on my Discord or aren't on the actual Reddit, I mean, you can see from a lot of the questions, I've only answered 2 questions so far from the Reddit, but all the questions that I've answered, there have been other people that have answered. Our Discord is very active, so not only can you get help, but there are a lot of people in the Discord that have started to research together and do different things and help each other, and a lot of people with different expertises. So, yeah. So there we go. Please join the Discord if you haven't. So, let's see. New channel idea, Jared dancing. If you watch some of my old videos, the quick genealogy tips, I do the dance when I do my little jingle in the beginning. Okay. I've got so many people arguing about that car analogy. I didn't know that would be such a hot topic of things. So it's actually, what, I did a Twitter thread a while back that I thought was good, that was like going into my whole blurry picture sort of analogy, and so few people liked it. I don't know if that was just because Twitter didn't actually show it to people because I don't pay for Twitter, but I don't know. I think it's a good analogy. There we go. Yeah, getting canceled for a car analogy. Yeah. Let's see. Do DNA tests take into account recessive genes in the total percentage? No, I mean, recessive genes more has to do with phenotype than genotype. So phenotyping is basically, how somebody looks or how something is. So with recessive genes, what it is that you need to inherit that gene from both your mom and your dad. So like we were talking about before, those, the base pairs, you get, one from mom, one from your dad. Well, you need to get, for the recessive gene, one, you need to get that from both mom and dad. Where, so that's not really the genotyping part, the actual DNA. I'm not going to get into the whole genotyping versus phenotyping thing here, but it's not something that really is taken into account with ethnic percentages. Okay, how long have I been streaming? Oh wow, hour 20 minutes. So we've had a pretty good amount of people. Let's see if we I think I'll do maybe like one or two more questions. Okay. Oh yeah, not a question. JJ Fishman. Want help with a mysterious last name? Let's make that larger and more easily readable. So I'm very curious about one of my ancestors. She's my 5th great grandmother. Her name was Mary Bettelyoung, born around 1820 in Pennsylvania. Her husband was George Neville, born 1810 in Pennsylvania. She was the mother of Daniel Neville, 1848 to 1899, born in Pennsylvania. I hope this is enough information, and I'm really curious about the last name Bettelyoung. So if you have any info on the last name, tell me what you know. Thank you. Okay, it sounds like this person is kind of just like, hey, do the genealogy. Here's the info. But I guess the general question would be, what's the deal with this Bettelyoung last name? Let's see what people said. So here, example of people in the community answering. So here's my caveat. I'm not a professional, but I do love the German language and have a graduate degree in history. My wife is of German descent from Hamburg in the early 1800s, residing on the West Virginia-Pennsylvania border of Appalachia. My opinion is your family name was anglicized from Bettelyoung with various meanings. Bettel, a kind of pepper and nut. Beetle, chisel, wood gouge, or better. R's commonly become L's, meaning worshiper, and young, meaning young. Given the religiosity of those early Pennsylvania Dutch, Deutsch is German, I favor the last version, Bettelyoung, from the German better young, meaning young worshiper. Additionally, I found this archive. I don't have an account with Newspaper Archive. I probably should. Interesting either way. Good luck, and let us know if you make any discoveries. Thank you for the diversion. Hope it helps. Let's see. All right, I'm not going to sign up for that, but that was $18.99. So let's do this. Okay. So one thing that people can do is just do a search. I hate that they do that. Just have a button that says search anyway. But you can just do a search and kind of see what you're coming up with. So start narrow, then get further. I saw one with 2 T's. So yeah, so here we have Bettelyoung, and arrival 1752. What do they have? And this is 1800s in Pennsylvania. Now, this doesn't mean that it's the same family, but it is certainly possible. But the thing that you can do here with doing this type of a search is basically this is kind of known as a one name study sort of search. So, you're focusing on a single name and trying to identify as many people as you can with that name in the areas that you're looking for. So here we're going to specifically be looking for Pennsylvania and West Virginia, where this family was. And then we'll slowly try to figure out, was it German? Was it something else? Could it be Belgian? Could it be Dutch? Obviously, it could also be coming from an area of one of those countries where the borders jumped all over the place. But just by doing a search of just those names, so the way she spelled it though was like that. So let's just see how that comes up. So even there, and then here's the family. So here she's married. Let's see what info we can get from her. So this is the 1850 census. And so John Bachtel, is this no, these are separate households. That's kind of an interesting name with what we know. So the George Neville, her, Mary, their children, presumably Pennsylvania. All right, let's go back. 1860, Mary Neville again. And so do we get any better? We know Pennsylvania. So yeah, so just, kind of first off looking at different pieces of information to see what can we learn about her. So here we've got that Bettel Young, George Neville. So yeah. So the thing that we could do here too. So first off, doing this one name, looking for people, and then also doing the, when I say that one name, it's not just this Bettel Young, but also, as this person mentioned, all these other possibilities. You want to consider the surname variations, especially when you're looking at 1800s into the 1700s, because you do get a lot of people doing slight changes to their name. And you get some lines where they decide to use two T's, others where it's a single T, others maybe where it's a D. So sometimes you can see that. Sometimes it can be all over the place. But it can be very helpful to do some sort of a research like that and basically start building trees of, okay, well, I don't know how this person connects, but let me build their tree. Let me build their tree. So we have this Mary, and where's Mary living at? Let's take a look at what else we got going on here, because we obviously have some non-married people. Let's see what other people say. So nobody's even guessing at a father, and this is the one with the most sources connected. But this one's got 11 sources. Supposedly they had a lot more children. Okay, so going back here, but looking here, we have this Bettel Young living in Hanover, Pennsylvania. So if this is where the family is, they're in Lamar, Clinton, right? Where is that? Lamar, Pennsylvania. Oh yeah, I mean that's not very close, but it's not like the furthest away, because Hanover is really close to not West Virginia, Maryland. I'm actually very familiar with Hanover. My band has played my old band played multiple shows in Hanover at the Timeline Arcade, which, shout out to the Timeline Arcade. Awesome place. I don't know if they're still there in Hanover, but all right. Yeah, actually I should move this over here. So Hanover's right here. And then Clinton was somewhere. More in the middle. Okay. So, but this is a possibility. So what I would do is I'd start building the family tree of this Bettelyoung family here in Hanover. So, and where? Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania. So yeah, so it's just really a matter of just starting to build these things out, because presumably 1880. How old was Bettelyoung? Born around 1820. So she would have been in her 60s. So this Jane Bettelyoung. So my guess is that this Bettelyoung family, this Emma and William, may be a niece and nephew of Mary Bettelyoung. It might not be, but it seems that might be the case, because Jane Bettelyoung is 54, and I'm guessing Jane is a widow. Yeah, widowed. So Jane, being that's her married name, it would be her brother that would presumably be related to Mary. And I'm not seeing a lot of other Bettelyoungs in the area at all. Let's do this. Okay. Didn't really turn up anything new, but we do have more Bettelyoungs in for So there's a lot of stuff to find here. Yeah, it seems like there's a good amount of people here in Hanover, or at least Lebanon County. So basically we're looking at central PA, kind of southern central. So yeah, there's definitely a lot that could be found for this. All right, let me go through chat. Oh, wow. Thank you very much, Orion Renaissance. I get it. I really appreciate the videos, though. Don't know if you had a question or you're just doing that. Oh, character limit. Thank you very much. But thank you very much for the super chat. I really do appreciate that. That does help me out a lot. So let me give Orion the screen here while I kind of peruse the rest. Yeah, Bettelyoung. I would try different things, but what this person is saying, extreme reality, that's a great way to consider the variations too, is understanding what the ancestry may be and what was the original name, and how the name is pronounced could change how you expect it to be spelled. So like the name that I always talk about, the family name is Nunes Vaz, spelled Nunes, and a lot of people think it's Nunez because that's the Spanish pronunciation, but the Portuguese pronunciation is Nunes Vaz. And so that's how my family, all of the family spread all across the world, is very adamant Nunes. And there were a few branches that changed it. One that changed it to Nunas, Nunes, and another that changed it to Nunis, Nunis. But all basically, instead of Nunez, instead of a yes, but an s, is, us sort of thing. So yeah, lots of variations. What are the odds of a pair of brothers in the same infantry unit during the Civil War? Found my great-great-great-grandfather on the NPS website and found a man with the same surname in the unit. I think in the Civil War, it was actually pretty common. I don't remember when that law came into play, the like survivor law, the military brother survivor law. Sole survivor. Yeah, the sole survivor policy. And actually, I guess, gosh, I've been doing so much research on so many YouTubers, but I guess just because I have to say it, there is a sole survivor policy story that will be coming up for a YouTuber family tree episode. tasting history. So this is, yeah. But sole survivor policy came into play. Was it really after World War II? Because I know the Sullivan brothers are the big one. There was a whole movie about these guys. My dad loves that movie. He watched it all the time, where they all were served on the same ship together. The ship drowned and they all died together. And so then they came up with this policy of, okay, well, we need to not only separate brothers into different units, but they should also be, if so many get killed, then the others become exempt from service. Yeah. So, okay. So if it was Civil War, I think it's certainly possible. And I feel like I've seen, especially in the Civil War, a lot of that because, with all of the ways that they enlisted the men in the areas that they were, not only did you get a lot of people that were fighting together who were brothers or cousins, but also just like whole towns or like whole neighborhoods that seemed to have fought together. So like I remember when I did Mr. Beat's family tree, and we looked into his Civil War ancestry, and the Galtree family, his ancestor, Mary Galtree, didn't fight, but she had brothers who fought, nephews, and all sorts of stuff. And one of her brothers wrote a lot about the war and wrote a lot of letters. And in it, he talks about a lot of the different family members. And when we look through the records, not only did we see their names, but we saw a lot of the names of people in the same area that I recognize from looking through the other records. So I would not be surprised. Okay, let's see. I'm old. Is Discord like IRC? What is IRC? I don't know what IRC is. Am I too young? Let's see. Oh, wow. Awesome. Justice, I know your cousins in Jamaica. You have cousins in Jamaica, Nunes Vaz. Yes, that is correct. I have a lot of cousins in Jamaica. Specifically, most of the cousins live around Spanish Town, where a lot of the family settled. But that family, there's two big branches of the Jamaican family that we don't know how they connect. One descends from a Phineas Nunes Vaz, and the other descends from a Jacob Nunes Vaz. But what we did do is there were about 2 or 3 different DNA testers from my side of the family who lived in Amsterdam. And then we got DNA testers from both branches of the Jamaican family to do Y-DNA. And it proved without a doubt that we are the same Nunes Vaz family. So I actually have a big group online of Nunes Vaz family members, and a lot of the Jamaican cousins are in there. So yeah, a lot of the cousins in Jamaica, it's actually really funny. A lot of the cousins that were the original ones in Jamaica then ended up in Venezuela and Curacao for the most part. A big part of the family they went by Vaz Capriles because the community in Jamaica went by the traditional surname adoption of the mother's surname and the father's surname, whereas my line in Amsterdam, we did it where we just kept the full double surname. So my mom was born Nunes Vaz, my grandfather Nunes Vaz, and so on up until the 1600s. Whereas in Jamaica, it's like the first 2 or 3 generations stayed Nunes Vaz, and then they changed it to like Vaz Capriles, Vaz Arles, a few others. And then one of my cousins who's done a lot of genealogy work, who's really cool, Carmen Vaz Altenberg, and her brother Dorian Vaz, both of them have been really helpful in getting a lot of the family ancestry in Jamaica. So I don't know, maybe those are some of the cousins but yeah, that's really cool. Okay, let's see. One of the main things I was interested in is for 23andMe. Most of my cousins on my dad's side have a lot of unassigned DNA, up to almost 9%. I was wondering if that was relating to inbreeding and stuff. I mean, I think it's certainly possible that it could be, but what it may be more representative of is that you may just be coming from ancestry that just is not that well represented in the studies that they have for determining admixtures. And even more, maybe you come from a population group that not only does that population group have an underrepresentation, but a lot of the tangential population groups are underrepresented. So, this is most commonly an issue for people with African and Asian ancestry when it comes to these DNA tests. You do get sites like Living DNA, which try to get very nuanced African ancestry breakdowns. And then you have some Asian-based companies like 23 Mafong or WeGene who get much more nuanced Asian breakdowns. But it could just be that if you're coming from a population group that, it's not always African and Asian, it could be, in certain European areas, or even, I don't know, South American, or all sorts of places in the world. But, if you come from an area that just really is not well represented, that could be it. But I'm not 100% sure. If you did have a lot of inbreeding issues with your DNA, you'd actually be able to figure that out by using the GEDmatch Are My Parents Related tool. So if your inbreeding is a high degree, that should determine it. Because basically what it does, it looks at what's known as homozygosity. So, we're talking about base pairs where, you look at every spot in your DNA, you get one that comes from mom and one that comes from dad. And so when you get it where what you're inheriting from mom at that spot is the same as you're getting from dad, so AA, TT, CC, GG. So basically a lot of homozygosity, basically each spot, it's the same base pairs. Then that's where you get, those issues. And that tool on GEDmatch will be able to tell you that. So let's see. My neighbors in Kingston, the entire family surname Nunes. They are not black. Yeah, there are some of the cousins are, some of them aren't. It's a real big mixture of things. I haven't found many that still keep the name Nunes. Most of them kept Vaz. But there are a lot of lines that I've still been researching, trying to find, because as you probably know, being in Jamaica, there's not a lot of records available digitally from Jamaica, and I haven't been able to visit Jamaica to do research. I've been to Jamaica, but a lot of what I've used is like Jamaican Family Search, and the few records available on actual family search and stuff like that. But yes, they are Sephardic Jews. Yeah. Okay. See how long I've been going. Oh wow, hour 47. So yeah, just almost an hour and a quarter. So all right, so I'm gonna answer a few more questions through chat probably, and then I think I might call it a day. So interesting. I noticed the numbers were a bit higher today, just because we're a bit higher today, and I wonder if it's because of me doing this a little bit later. So definitely let me know. Do you all like these ones this time, or is it better when I do them a little bit earlier? So I'm sure it's going to vary depending on where you are in the world. So all the people in Australia are like, it doesn't matter much to us. What, 2 a.m. versus 4 a.m.? Okay. Have you seen NYTN episodes, online investigating her family lines and finding Lola episodes? Yes. In fact, I did a reaction to all 4 episodes of Finding Lola. I did another reaction to a DNA test video for Finding Lola. And then, I've messaged with Danielle a few times. I actually think she just had somebody reach out to me. I need to go double check my emails again. But I think she had someone reach out to me about doing something. But I've done multiple reactions to her. So if you go to my professional genealogist reaction channel on YouTube, which I do see you are on YouTube. So if you go to my channel, you should see that I do have at least 5 reactions to her videos, if not more. Yeah. So yeah, I'm very familiar with Danielle. Her videos are great. Her videos are very interesting. Let's see. How did you manage to upload 3 of your kits to FTDNA? I thought it doesn't allow this. Yeah, FTDNA makes it really difficult to upload multiple kits to your DNA, or the multiple DNA kits. And the reason for that is because for every kit that you upload, you need to have a separate email for it. So that's basically what's happening is when people are uploading it, they're using a separate email. And so they upload it, and yeah, that's what they're doing. I'm not too convinced with 23 Mofong's and WeGene's admixture results. Yeah, I'm not too familiar with it either. I do know, I've reacted to a few videos of people taking those tests. The one that I remember most is the gold thread video, which was really good. That one was probably 3 or 4 years ago. I did a reaction to that. But with any of these tests, really, you really have to read the white paper to figure out how reliable it is. And I don't know if any of those release it. I'm from Venezuela, and Capriles was a politician there. I mean, I don't know if he's necessarily related to me, but he's probably related to the Vaz Capriles cousins of mine through their Capriles line. So, yeah, NYTN episodes continue. Yeah, she's been doing, she puts out videos all the time. I think I would not be surprised if she's basically trying to do YouTube full time at this point. Let's see. I have a Romani dad and a mom with Northwestern European ancestry. I took DNA tests from both Ancestry and 23andMe, and it felt weird when Ancestry boiled down half of my DNA to European Roma. So interesting. I know in the past with the Romani ancestry, that's something I've gotten a lot of people to tell me about, because that wasn't something I had much experience with, and so it wasn't something I realized that it would have South Asian connections and things like that. But I also didn't know the history, and that's why knowing the history kind of helps. But that's very interesting. I Ancestry has that Roma. Interesting. Do a Jamaican vlog. You'll get lots of views. Yeah, I probably should. I'm planning to do more on location stuff, hopefully. So maybe I'll go to Jamaica and visit some cousins. And yeah. The Romani community were more recently from Eastern Europe and not India. Yeah, see, I don't know the whole deal with it, but I think one of Charlie has Romani ancestry, I believe. Tell me if I don't know if Charlie's still in the chat. But, yeah, all 23andMe testers, please upload to MyHeritage. Now, honestly, please upload everywhere. MyHeritage, Jetmatch, it's all helpful. Especially because you get the most, you spread the widest net of seeing the most DNA matches. Okay. So, yeah, by far my ancestors were removed from India a millennia ago. Interestingly enough, my mixture of European and South Asian DNA were both similar, confirming my whole thought with the YK. So, yeah, Discord might be able to get another eye on that family, and someone might be able to make a break. So, all right. Yeah, Charlie has a little bit from 5th great grandmother. So, okay. So, yeah, all right. So, we got through a couple of these. Let me do reviewed. So, oh yeah, I should do this live stream. Oh, come on, type. All right. Was it want a hyphen? There we go. Gosh, I really hope I don't get kicked from Reddit. I've had this profile for so long too. Okay, so we got through a couple. I think that was pretty good. So definitely let me know what you all think in terms of times for these. Appreciate everybody joining today. I know that, the whole answering questions thing, I wish I could answer everybody's questions, but, I'm only human. So I do truly appreciate everybody, being here and asking questions, and post your questions on Reddit if you didn't have me answer the question you wanted me to answer. I'm going to be doing another live stream on Friday on the main channel, building a family tree. I was thinking about putting out a poll to figure out who to build the family tree for, and then I kind of got distracted by some stuff over the past few days, so I didn't put out the poll like I wanted. So I think I might just go and choose somebody, which is somebody that actually was suggested multiple times by my mods. So I'll kind of figure that out. But I think it'll be one that a lot of people will enjoy and will bring a lot of interesting stuff up. So thank you once again, all. And you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Hopefully it's not too cold out there for everyone. And if it is cold out there for you, hopefully you can get some nice warm drinks already and warm yourself up. So have a great rest of your day, everyone.